to the Munro Review, where it's all about connecting, sharing, and valuing the arts in the Central San Joaquin Valley. I'm Donald Munro. Today is September 27th, and we're here to talk about the busy art scene in October. On today's show, we'll get a sneak peek at Sierra Art Trails, we'll introduce the new play Anonymous at Fresno State, and we'll offer a special look at an important and moving art exhibition at Fresno State. But first, let's recap some of what I've been covering at MunroReview.com. September marked the start of the new performing arts season, and there was lots to see and do. For Good Company players, Don Quixote rode into town in Man of La Mancha, and yes, there is a windmill. The production is exquisite. It's one of those beautifully put together theatrical moments that feels tender and rousing and inspiring all at the same time. Chris Mangles and Amelie Larson are terrific in the leading roles of Quixote and his idealized lady, Dulcinea. And a wonderfully cast Miguel Molinar makes a memorable sidekick, Sancho Panza. Director Julie Lucido uses live guitarists on the Raja Raka stage, which is wonderful, and her rough and rugged artistic concept for the production is really effective. I highly recommend this La Mancha, which continues through November 10th. And don't miss my preview interview on MunroReview.com with Don Gade, the opera-singing doctor who stands out in a secondary role. So some other theater to read about. I was also a big fan of Stageworks Fresno's very fine Book of Will, which served not only as a fascinating account of history about Shakespeare, but also as a love letter to the theater. I have mixed feelings about Selma Arts Center's new production of Beauty and the Beast, which runs through October 5th. There are some strong performances, particularly from Emma Denbeston as Belle and Antonio Oliveira as an enlightening Lumiere, but some parts of the show lack the crispness and sparkle that audiences have come to expect from this family favorite. You can read my reviews of Man of La Mancha, Book of Will, and Beauty and the Beast at MunroReview.com. A couple of other highlights from September. I caught up with Ray Hatoda, conductor of the Fresno Philharmonic, to talk about the 2019-20 season, which includes some very interesting concert programs. My best read story of the month was about country music star Louise Mandrell, who finished up her run of Good Company's Calamity Jane with an in-depth and revelatory interview with me. Now, let's get to our first story on the show today. Sierra Art Trails is an open studio tour held once a year in the Yosemite foothills, and thousands of people come. This year's Art Trails runs Friday through Saturday, October 4th through 6th. A special preview exhibit features works from all of the artists on display, and that's at Stellar Gallery in Oakhurst. I headed there a couple of weekends ago to see the art and to pick up a special award.
I'm a photographer living in the Oakhurst area. I've lived up here around Yosemite for 42 years. I'm exhibiting at Sierra Art Trails. When I first came up here, I worked for the National Park Service, and then I got to work at the Ansel Adams Gallery in Yosemite. Got to know Ansel Adams and got my footing as an artist through Ansel and a lot of the people involved with Ansel's world and workshops. Well, my specialty is Yosemite, but stylistically I make intimate landscapes. So details of pieces of nature, pieces of the landscape that I find graphically interesting, maybe great light, great color. I love the off seasons in Yosemite, so I have lots of photographs from spring, winter, and fall. I do some macro work. I work in black and white and color, so there's a variety there. I also do some impressionistic photography where I'm actually painting with light, literally where I'm moving the camera and making kind of a painting stroke out of the landscape. Impressionistic type of work.
And so could you maybe just set the scene for us in terms of Sierra Art Trails for somebody who has never done it before? What's the best way to do it?
Yeah, coming to the preview exhibit, which is here at the Stellar Gallery, is a great option. The catalog is another way to see what people are doing. and you see what you like and follow the trail. Just kind of follow your instincts and what type of art you like, whether it's sculpture, or painting, or photography. So I hope you can come by and visit us.
Okay, I'm Chris Kessie. My show is going to be at my studio in Ahwahnee, California. I'll be showing with Norma Rogers and Carla Reyes, and we all have different work. Norma does sculpture, I do photography. Norma does some photography, and Carla does these amazing little collage things. We're all kind of politically motivated a little bit, maybe, and poetic. This evening is the preview show, the opening of the preview show for the Sierra Art Trails. All of the artists that are on the trail bring a work to the gallery, and so the visitors can come and they can look at all the work that's on the trail and then choose who they want to go see. And they can pick up a catalog and meet, most of the artists are here tonight, so the visitors can get a map and follow the trail and go to all the different studios and see the artists in their place of work, see all their work there, and sometimes there's demos and things like that, and it's all over the county from North Fork to Mariposa and down into YLP, so it's a pretty fun thing to do.
So I received the Keeper of the Flame Award, an annual honor bestowed on an individual or organization that has helped Sierra Art Trails thrive. Thank you for that. And for a year, I get to keep a commissioned sculpture by Fresno artist Chris Sorensen. It's fun to keep it in my living room, and I thank Sierra Art Trails for the honor. So our in-studio guests today are here to talk about the new play Anonymous at Fresno State. Let's welcome our guests. Can you introduce yourselves, starting with Cha?
Yes, my name is Cha Yang, and I play Anon in Anonymous.
Hi, my name is Gina Sandi-Diaz, and I'm an assistant professor of theater at Fresno State and the director of the show.
I'm Teya Juarez, and I play Nemasani in Anonymous.
So, Teya, this show is not really well known to a lot of people, and I'm sure you've had to do some explaining in terms of to your friends and family. What is the show about? What do you tell them?
So the play Anonymous is the story of the current immigrant experience in the United States, told in a story that's based on the Odyssey. It's the story of Anon, and he is fleeing his country that is being damaged by war. He flees with his mother, and they get separated out at sea. And so he arrives in this new place, and he's looking for his mom, and he meets all these new people and has all these experiences in his journey along the way.
So it sounds like it's a quest story, and it's a story about refugees. Is that right, Gina?
Yes, exactly. It's an epic journey of a hero, in this case Anon, who is in a foreign land and feels like an other, who's looked upon as an other, and his quest is to find home, and his idea of home is his mom, and he has the hope that she's there in this land, so he goes searching for her, and on the way he's going to meet people who are willing to help him, and usually those people have had similar experience as him. So those people are usually immigrants or refugees who have settled in the US and are willing to help him. And then he also encounters some dangerous people that are not so willing to help him and that view him as an other and therefore as a threat. So the play plays a lot with those two situations. And that's where the link to the Odyssey is.
So it sounds like this play has a lot of very relevant themes to things that are going on in this country today.
Absolutely.
Is that what kind of drew you to it?
Yes, absolutely. So I had seen a production of this play a few years ago, and I was very impressed by it because it's a very playful play. It's an ensemble piece with lots of actors that recreates an ocean on stage. So it's a great opportunity for student actors to play. So I like that about the play, and we selected it. But then, during the summer, when we started to hear about families being separated at the border and these detention centers, and those images of the detention centers that look like these big warehouses with, chain link cells and people living in them, I was very impacted by that, and I just thought this play speaks so much about that experience, and we cannot separate what's going on right now to the journey that Anon is going through. So my concept for the play is absolutely based on what we're seeing today happening in the news. And I believe Anon is one of those children. He's one of those children at these detention centers, separated from his mom. And the trauma of that event has a very powerful impact in his life. And I want to make that clear to the audience that what's happening right now in those detention centers, the trauma of those events are gonna last for generations, are gonna impact future generations of those people.
So Cha, have you found yourself, say, reading headlines or reading stories differently today because of this character that you're playing?
I have to say no, simply because I am a son of an immigrant, my parents. And so I've always seen them, especially negative headlines towards immigrants, I've always seen them in a negative light. And so having played Anon, it doesn't change it, but it does make it more impactful. But it doesn't change how I feel, it just gives it more.
Mm-hmm. So tell us just a little bit about Anon. What kind of man is he?
Anon, he's a very blunt kid, and that's always one of the first few things to come up in my head. It's because he spent all his time alone for so long that he's very instinctual. It's always about, what can I do to escape this situation and survive and find my mom. He's very determined, very admirable, if I say, because he's very hopeful at the same time. Even though he goes through all these terrible situations and sees these terrible things, he always have that hope, and he always grasps onto that hope that he will find his mom.
So Teya, what about from the mother's perspective? Does she also have that hope, or does she bring kind of a more weathered, sort of cynical look at what this country's going through?
I think that Nemasani would like to think that she's mind over her heart, but she can't help but have that same hope that Anon has, and I think that's what leads them to find each other again, is that even though she can think about it realistically, like he might not be out there and like he might not have made it and our family might be broken apart, but that hope, she can't help but listen to that and be like, my son is out there, I know he's out there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So Gina, when you're talking with your actors and you're dealing with this sort of this level of contemporary issues, stuff that's going right now, stuff you can read about right now, and then you're actually kind of trying to weave this into the play, what is that like?
Well, it has actually been a very natural process, just because I think, let me go back. I think immigration it's a natural thing, right? So we have this social construct right now, contemporary, that it's somehow affecting our social political systems and stuff. But really, immigration, migrating for when you're from, it's part of the human condition, and so we have had these conversations about how it's not a contemporary issue. It's always been an issue. It's always has been there, but it's like waves that pop up. These waves of intolerance towards those situations, and then they die off, and then they come back up. And we had a lot of conversations about that, and also because we live in a city that is home to a lot of refugee communities and immigrant communities. My actors are very in tune with that. And so I think it has allowed us to really open up about those conversations. And to bring a little bit of that to the show. So one of the things that we're doing too is we are paying homage to the immigrant communities that live here in Fresno. And so you will find, for example, some Armenian music in the show. You will find some Hmong elements in the costume design. And other communities. We're bringing, of course, the Mexican experience through, there's a series of characters that represent farm workers from this area. And so we're trying to pay homage to what Fresno is. This is our landscape. This is the world that we live in.
So, Cha, what has been your biggest challenge playing this role?
It's the biggest challenge is to find those different things in Anon, because when reading it the first couple of times, I found myself being very static, and that's not who he is. You know, this is a coming of age story. He learns and he grows with each scenes, and so that was the hardest thing. And thankful to Gina here that she helped me find a lot of those transitions, and it's also helpful to have a great cast, and those people actually help me find Anon in that scene. And it's not just me finding Anon once, it's me finding him in every scene and trying to push that forward. And I would say that was the hardest thing, is to find him in every scene and push him forward.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a fascinating production. Teya, can you tell us when it opens and how long you'll be running?
We run from October 4th to October 12th.
And that's at the Fresno State Woods Theater, the smaller theater. So it's a very intimate setting, a chance to get really close to this material. Well, thank you for coming in today and talking with us.
Thank you for having
Sounds
us.
like a very, very worthwhile production.
Thank you.
Also at Fresno State, there is a new exhibition at the Phoebe Conley Art Gallery that deserves your attention. It's called Prussian Blue, and it's from a Mexican Jewish artist. And it is a significant new way of looking at an event that artists have grappled with for decades, the Holocaust. Producer Kyle Lowe and I went out to the gallery earlier this week for a look at the exhibition. So we are here today at Fresno State at the Phoebe Conley Gallery for a very special exhibition. It's a very somber exhibition, a very introspective show, and it is titled Prussian Blue. So could you introduce yourself and tell us about the title?
Sure. My name is Urrutia. I'm the director of the Center for Creativity and the Arts here at Fresno State. And first, thank you for coming here today to talk about this show. So Prussian Blue is a series by Mexican Jewish artist Yishai Sidman. And as you mentioned, it is about the Holocaust. And this show is titled Prussian Blue for several reasons. To begin with, the color Prussian blue was invented in Germany at a time when Germany was called Prussia, which is why it's called Prussian blue. It's a particular shade of blue. The color blue has always been around. Also, it is also called Prussian blue for another reason that's a little bit more somber, which is that in some concentration camps, the walls of the gas chambers have this Prussian blue-like stain. And part of the reason for that is because of the cyanides that are used to create the color blue. This Prussian blue, when mixed with iron, give this shade. So what happened in gas chambers was that you would have this poisonous cyanide mixing with the iron inside the human body. So an unintended side effect was that the walls ended up being stained this Prussian blue-like color. Yishai, what he was interested in was the idea of how do you represent what is unimaginable, what is part of the imagination, but at the same time something that's very horrific that is usually not represented in the visual arts. One of his initial trepidations was, how do I not over-represent or under-represent? So it was a problem to be solved, but not a problem in the sense of I'm just solving a problem, but it's a problem of how is it that in art we think about the Holocaust and how do we represent it.
Tell us about how the exhibition itself is set up.
The whole idea is that you walk from one gallery to another and you basically are confronted with different aspects of the Holocaust. And it's also the fact that you have different galleries breaks it up so that you have some time to just sit with everything. And we also have an exhibition guide, and the exhibition guide will give the viewer information on some of the pieces because it functions as both a guide and an archive. And here you will see architecture, you will see, landscapes, you will see flesh tones, and you will see representations of gas chambers, but you will not see figures.
So all of these works then are painted. These are
Yes.
paintings, but the artist based this on photographs.
Yes. So
He took some of those photographs, some are archive
Yes.
photographs. So maybe we could talk about this one, which I think is pretty accessible for people. It's like
Yes.
everyone can understand a train platform.
yes, when we think about landscape paintings, you see greenery, right? You see colors that are part of nature. That's not what we have here. I think the work can truly best be appreciated quietly and introspectively, and it moves us.
So this is a show that is probably best experienced by yourself.
I think so.
Or if you do come with someone, you don't chat as you walk through. It's like you kind of make it an individual journey.
And this is also why we ask that there not be any photography, that there not be any selfies.
No selfies.
And that's very important because then we go back to the issue of trivializing subject matter that should not be trivialized.
And again, these are paintings.
Paintings.
But they're based on photographs, and
Yeah.
they're quite realistic.
Exceedingly so. And that was what Yishai wanted to do. Have an exceedingly, straightforward, realistic, representational aesthetic. Nothing has been added, nothing has been detracted. And I think there's power in that. And I'm very grateful that thus far the Fresno community has been very respectful when they've come into this exhibit. We have a lot of people coming and going, and I think they've taken to task the idea of coming alone. So there's always somebody in the gallery, but most of the time that person is alone with their guide, just interacting with the art and having a moment, and that is powerful.
I feel like this was put here for a purpose.
Yes, if you just look at the upper register, it looks black, but it's really blue. So basically, it's Prussian blue over and over and over and over again. And then in the bottom, you could see some different shades of blue. This blackness, which is really a blue, is a reminder for me of the darkness of all that was lost, of all of the lives lost.
It's almost as if we're all just going to walk into that void.
Exactly,
that
and this is the final piece.
Yeah.
This is where you end, and this is where basically it's you.
Well, thank you, Cindy. This is a heartfelt show. It is really, really intense, but it's something that I think everyone should come experience. Can you tell us how long does it run?
Yes.
And where are we, by the way?
So we
tell
are at
folks.
Fresno State at the Phoebe Conley Art Gallery. The show will run until October 31st. It is open daily between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The show is free and open to the public. And I really want to emphasize that because this show is generously sponsored through an endowment that the university received. And our endowment specifies that we have programming that is for Fresno State, but also the Fresno community at large, and that money should not be an issue for somebody to come and experience this. So it's free, it's open Monday through Friday, and I hope that people will come and come with an open mind and an open heart.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donald.
Prussian Blue continues through October 31st at the gallery, and it is free. Now it's time for the list, a selection of things to do in October. The Fresno City College's theater department opens Let the Right One In, a stage adaptation of the popular novel and screenplay about an unlikely vampire. It runs from October 4th through October 12th. Are you in the mood for a cheery little musical? Good Company opens She Loves Me at the Second Space Theater on October 25th. This is the romance that inspired the movie You've Got Mail. The Fresno Philharmonic gets into the Pops spirit with a score for Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. The orchestra will play Danny Elfman's beloved score to a live showing of the movie on October 12th. And don't forget the Keyboard Concert Series at Fresno State. On October 11th, American pianist Jonathan Biss performs. Well, that wraps it up for this month's episode of the Munro Review. Be sure to keep up online at munroreview.com for previews, reviews, giveaways, profiles, and more. A big thank you to our volunteer crew, and a thank you to all of our guests, Gina Sandi-Diaz, Cha Yang, and Teya Juarez of Anonymous. And also thank you to the artists of Sierra Art Trails and the Center for Creativity in the Arts at Fresno State. And for all of you, please keep exploring and supporting the local art scene. We'll see you next time.